And if you don't, what'd you lose? $1. You know what I mean? You lose $1. I lost more than $1 in that stupid box. Yeah.
Congratulations, old timer.
Yeah, they put Barb in the hospital today.
Huh?
His wife's in the hospital. Show Barb what she got in the mail.
What's
Well, she went in
It's been a long time coming.
Friday, she
38
didn't
plus years.
feel good. She kept
Well,
saying
a lot more years of work.
Saturday
That
she
many
had a
years.
hard time breathing.
See you all.
Sunday, I
See
went
you,
to
bud.
the
Good Christmas,
hospital.
buddy.
Hey, look, Butch.
No, I got a
He's
doctor's
legal.
appointment
Are you?
Monday morning.
Who cares?
She had a this morning. The doctor came in and they'd done a CAT scan on her Friday. Well, everything looked good as far as the tumor went. But she looked and she said, "You've got pneumonia." She says, "You've got an infection."
Oh.
So now she's over there and they're putting, my daughters are with her, but they're putting bunches of antibiotics in her, the wood bag.
Yeah.
And they got her on oxygen too.
Yeah.
My wife, her oxygen level was down
Wings
at
on it?
Well, we don't know.
82.
I think you had to put another pull out in the middle sheet to hold up underneath it.
Right in the middle?
Doctor.
And then the median, you know where the median is, put an arm up out of it to hold the end of it up. That's all you have to do.
Barb looked at her and said, "Hey, I don't care. Just
I
make
guess
me
it was.
feel better."
Oh, they thought it
She
was
just
like-
she's been one.
Wow.
She's just a stubborn
It
German,
shouldn't
man.
do
You
that.
can't get her to do
I mean,
shit.
there's ways to stop it.
Well, that's just how it is. That's just how she is.
There you go.
Woo. But
We kept the
she's
same
she's where she needs to be.
But it was supposed to, what was it supposed to baffle?
Yeah.
But then it ripped my phone. Yeah.
When they did the state wrestling, like, they got you have to be
She just still wasn't feeling good. Right.
Somebody gave me the wrong chair here.
I think that's what we should have done. We should have
Before that, she just
show up.
My butt's in
Like,
the
yeah,
I forgot to. I'll be right. Been around somebody as long as you have.
Yeah, it was,
I'm glad they're getting medicine.
And they get, if you paint it black, so it's not as noticeable. See if everyone can believe it, you know?
If it's sitting as low as I have, you know when somebody flipped one on you.
You two are just all wrapped up in this damn.
They all don't fit.
Look, I got this one. Ron Kruger and I. Ron broke it in very well for me.
You know, Carson, I was. We, so Friday I go to Layton's, around their Christmas party and stuff.
Well.
Of course they. So, talking to Carson today, and I think, I said, "Why broke down?" I came to one, left it in the office. I didn't bring it Friday's time, go from there. All right, okay. Jackson.
They're just talking damn.
City. Jackson.
All right.
If I brought the seat, but the wrong.
5:30. Bob,
Left there.
want to give your report?
Yep.
All righty.
We all short and sweet tonight because of the budget meeting, I think. Number one on the agenda is the mass starting on 79 at Hopewell. About a couple weeks ago, we got a lot of complaints. It was on a weekend, we came in on Monday. There were a lot of complaints that the mass arm was going up and down. Really bad, worse than normal, so we decided to call Jobs again. They were working on it originally. We're going to try to figure out exactly why that is going to stop it, because people are most scared. It's going, have you noticed that going up and down?
Yep.
No? Oh, it can be bad.
It's bad. I mean, it jumps about that
Oh,
much.
it goes up and down bad. We have moved it.
Now, is that the one that, are you talking about the one, the new one?
The new one.
The new one.
The new one. The new one's bouncing
Same
up
arm.
down.
It's the same arm. We originally it was changed. It was taken down with the safety, the 79 safety project we did, and supposedly there were baffles or wings on the mast arm that went across, and nobody could ever find them again, and they weren't put back up on the old one that we had. Then that pole was getting hit, so we replaced that pole, moved it farther up the road, and put the same old mast arm on it. So, but we didn't put any baffles or wings on it, so it's been the same way ever since. So we're going to have to do something. guess if you're underneath of it or going underneath of it, it's going up and down, people are getting nervous, so.
Yeah.
We were gonna check that out with Job's, I think after the first of the year, so. We're gonna try to correct that, and I'm hoping it won't be anything expensive. Chris kinda watched it for a while, he thinks when the wind blows from the east, more it affects it, which would almost be directly going right in instead of sideways, you know, it's going directly at it. But he says that he thinks that's when it gets kinda crazy, so we're gonna do some research on that, try to fix that, so
Okay.
when I hear that, we will come back. And hopefully it won't, something.
I
covered my
cannot
budget.
think of, I mean, of course, I'm not a mechanical engineer, but I cannot think of what would prevent that from happening. You know, you have a signal head that is way out on the end of the pole. You know, if you, at the elbow of the pole,
Right.
if you put something there, it might offer a little bit of support, but the fact that you have something that heavy out on the end, if it's catching the wind, I mean, I just don't know how you stop something like that from happening
Well,
on a pole like that.
we had these wings or baffles put on originally, and it did stop it at one time. But if things can be shifted, I don't know. It is a physics issue or something
Mhm.
that we're gonna have to figure out.
Yeah.
But some days it doesn't do it, and then some days it's calm and it seems like it's doing it.
Yeah.
Might just depend on which way the wind's going.
Yeah.
So, that's that. Number two, the Meritor light, we've talked about at times, that has not worked properly. It will go on a fixed signal where every so many minutes it'll turn red instead of waiting for traffic to trigger it. We have looked at it and we have decided that, the loop on the mound builder side is what's bad. And that doesn't even mean if a car is coming in and out, it's a area over there that the loop it's just bad. So we're looking at a camera put on the Meritor side facing, mound builders park that entrance and exit there. And we think the camera then, instead of having the loop, fixing the loop and digging up the road and all that stuff, just put the camera there. Now, if that intersection, for whatever reason, it never really happens, or we decide to do it, we can always move the camera and use it someplace else if we do. So we're looking into that right now. But that looks like that's the problem on the mound builder side.
Here you go with a camera to trigger it?
Well, yeah, you can use a camera to trigger it, so you place in the loop.
Like the other,
Yeah.
Has there been any conversation about turning that light to blinking?
Well, we have, blinking or out, but Mary, you wanna,
I'm sorry.
did you hear that, what Dick said?
No, I didn't.
I was asking about that light going blinking maybe or something.
Territory.
We were
We
gonna.
could do that.
Well, we
We could
talked
just
about.
we could just make it a flash. I don't want to take it down,
Yeah.
but I think we could just make it a flash.
Yeah, just,
Is there, when you come out mound builder, is that
Oh, yeah.
right-hand turn only?
No.
no, that.
So you can turn left there?
Yes,
Yeah.
there's no
Wow.
median
See,
there.
that's, if you
Wow.
put it on flash, the people that wanna come out or go into mound builders, come out and wanna head north, they're in trouble. How are they gonna get across all those lanes?
Is there a mast
It's
arm
blinking.
there? I
No.
don't,
No, it's
What
up
are you
by
gonna-
wire.
We'll have to mount it on something, or something we can mount on the Meritor side. We can just mount the camera on, we may have to
On
put
a
something
pole,
up. Or
just on some
Just
kind of
span.
Yeah, yeah, fan wire,
vertical.
put on anything.
okay.
Because Tim, in a system like that, the camera shows the image, then you're able to manipulate where on that image, if there's a car here, that trips the signal and that kind of thing. It's
Yeah, yeah. You draw in like imaginary loops in the computer.
Uh-huh.
And then if there's an image, being a car or whatever, that gets into that area, it's just like tripping the old loop, but essentially it's on the computer.
Okay.
Third thing, I don't have estimates, but, we are going to start looking at what it would cost to, do the subdivisions. We already have River Oaks. To do River Oaks, which was the original area, if you're familiar with River Oaks, there's a four-way stop sign about halfway up Blue Jack Lane that can go into the new new section. We have estimates to pave all that, and that's just off the top of my head, could be between $300,000 and $400,000 just to do that. So this paving we're doing is
That's
very
paving
expensive.
only, right?
Paving.
Not
That's
curbs.
milling and paving.
Yeah, not curbs.
Not curbs. The curbs are in good shape. We may have to do some catch basin work there.
Yeah.
Because whatever reason a lot of them had raised up. It's at approximately around 400.
Well, this is Blue Jack, River Oaks Drive,
All the
White Oak Court, the first phase
Yeah.
1 of the whole section.
yeah, everything that's I guess would be west of that four-way stop sign there. Nothing east of the four-way stop sign.
So Pin Oak and Willow Oak, those will,
Yeah.
okay.
We figure that's what,
Everything
more than 20
west.
west.
Yeah.
It's probably more than 20, between 20 and 25 now maybe. I've lived there for, what, maybe 19 years, so it's there before me, so it's been there over 20 years. But we're looking at that, and then we will get maybe what total replacement would be in Greenbrier and some of the other areas, so we have an idea what we're facing. Again, it takes 2 years, and I think we're raising a little bit more. It was $150,000 a year. I think we're maybe up to $175,000 we're bringing in now.
In the license plate tax?
License plate tax, so that's $350, but as I said, that's just a section of River Oaks Drive that would take every bit of that money and then do nothing else in the city, and then have to wait another 2 years to pave again with what the budget we have now for paving. So there is a need for us to come up with some more dollars or something to continue our paving in the city. But it is, it's getting more expensive. Just the little things we did this year was very expensive. One of the problems I see though are the huge entrances into these subdivisions. River Oaks included. Now I'm not sure how Willow is. I don't think that road is any wider than the others, but if you go in the
Not
Fox
really,
Run,
it's not.
if you go in the Fox Run, you go into River Oaks, like I said, you could land there, 747 in there.
Yeah.
So that is a lot to do when you go into pave.
Yeah.
Now originally, I think River Oaks is supposed to have a medium in it, flowers and things. Supposedly the city didn't want it, but they didn't reduce the size of the road. And really what that does is just induces people to drive faster in your subdivision.
Yeah.
When there's wider roads.
And you would know this because
Because I see it happening.
you
I
observe.
I observe.
He's looking at his speedometer as it's going like this. And
As he pulled away from the car.
Use your mirrors very well, right? Rearview mirror.
Where you live, you didn't have a chance to go that fast when you got to your place.
Well, you could ramp it coming all the way down that hill, baby.
I'm just saying.
Anything else?
So,
No, that's enough.
you know, I would say, you know, Greenbrier, we have that scope also include curbs.
Yep.
Greenbrier's curbs are in
For
awful
replacement,
shape.
some of Southgate would be for replacement.
Some of those streets on the west side of 30th Street, you know,
Well, Cynthia needs
curbed
it
and
bad.
not, some of those need to
Right.
be done.
Cynthia's getting really bad. We're really worried about Cynthia, and that's been, 10 years, 10 to 12 years we paid that.
Yeah.
And that's not that long, you know. And then Claren Drive, you know, there are some issues with Claren after we paved over top of the cement.
Clarence got the humpty humps going
We got
pretty,
some humps
pretty.
that came up, and then
Yeah.
the curves have always been horrible there.
Yeah.
So, we still have some issues we have to deal with.
You got some Southgate streets. Kepler's not in great shape.
No.
Yeah, there is.
Well, Kepler gets a lot of,
Well,
a lot
that's,
of
you
traffic.
know.
Trying to think of some other streets that are kind of rough. You know, some of those perimeter streets, the cut across streets, that
Right.
get more traffic.
But some of the major streets we will be doing Hopewell, which I think it's next year, isn't it? Hopewell?
I think that's correct.
Yep.
And then isn't 79 supposed to be the year after that?
17, I think.
17.
Yeah. I think that's right.
So thankfully we get some of those done, but it takes us a long time to save enough money to do these streets anymore, so.
Okay.
We'll have a bigger commitment towards that. That's all I have. I don't have anything else on the other items.
Anything for
Rob,
Bob?
I checked on the
Kaiser Drive, we never had streetlights out there, that never did go all the way through, so.
There's streetlights there, but they were probably private streetlights from Kaiser
Yeah,
at one time, which we inherited. I don't know if there's any, when we took over the road.
Any
we were
kind of
supposed
agreement to take over,
agreement
yeah.
to
Where-
fix those lights or not.
I don't know if we
Well, I
find.
remember that, because we didn't, we took, I was chairman of the streets then, and we did go have them redo the streets, but we didn't bother the street.
Right. Okay.
All right, we'll adjourn at,
Bet the street department's
42.
loving the mild El Nino weather forecast coming to.
Mayor's loving the El Nino, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Keeping the overtime and the salt.
Well,
usage and
the
everything else.
salt
Hey,
is,
That's right there.
the salt is, we are, I don't quote me, but I think we asked for 600 ton.
That seems to ring a bell.
Somewhere in the 600 ton, and the state requires you to purchase
Yeah.
that.
90%
Whether
of
you,
that.
whether it snows or not, that's the 90% of that, so that if it's 540 ton, we would have to purchase whether it snows or not this year.
And our salt barn holds how many tons?
About 450.
Between 4 and 5.
We're-
And we were struggling that one year to figure out where we were gonna put it, if we filled up our salt.
I mean, we
Put
had
it
it
in
in the
the pool,
rafters.
have a saltwater pool next to it.
That's a pleasant problem. Let's hope we have to put
But
tarps
anyway,
on
If,
it.
the
if,
point
if
is,
this
okay,
weather
we
pattern
do.
continues, if it rains in the evening, we'll put some salt down to preemptively make sure that it doesn't freeze overnight.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah.
But yes, it will keep our overtime down, so that's a good thing.
Cause yeah, I mean, that barn will have salt coming up out of the top of it.
So you gotta store it somewhere, so let's put it on the road.
Put it on the
so-
street.
Yeah.
It'll be coming out.
We gotta buy it.
Help deteriorate those babies a little quicker, huh?
That's the sad part, we have to buy it.
I know.
The state reduced the wiggle room that we.
Well, we may have to rent, we were looking for a place to rent one
If
time.
it doesn't snow, I'm not gonna sell anything, so.
It's like double damnation. Get them out of the line, you're still.
You can bottle it. But that's so
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna call the car certification of David Shai to order at 5:44. First item on the agenda, estimates for sealing in all the parks, Bob.
Okay. For sure next year, hopefully with our capital improvement, the pool will have to be sealed next year and also striped. One estimate, Extreme, they are a subsidiary from Law Excavating. They have given me an estimate, and that's also fixing, we have a problem where the recycling bins are, that in front of those, probably from the trucks coming in and picking them up and hauling them away, our asphalt is getting really bad there, so that's gonna have to be dug up and redone when we do that. Also, we have a bad spot close to the pool on the bike path where at one time it settled. And we found out when they dug it up that, probably the street department at one time, before I was in charge, of course. They had dug a big hole and buried some stumps in there. And then eventually the stumps rot.
Yeah.
Goes down, and of course, nobody knew we were gonna build a bike path in there.
Yeah.
At that time, so we had to go in there, what's settling again a little bit, probably didn't get filled up all the way, so they're gonna fix that area a little bit, that's included in this estimate. But it's about around $26,000 to do those things. But that's something that we're gonna have to do the pool in the spring next year, so I'll be coming back,
That'll be on the
April.
planning document and we'll.
which I gave the mayor for,
Yeah,
capital
we're,
improvement for next year.
yeah, we're putting a planning document together for capital improvements.
And along with that, it is time to do some of the bike paths that we have done, 15, 20 years ago when we put them, we've never been sealed. A lot of our parking lots have never been sealed, so it's time.
I wanna have a conversation about the bike paths. How long has it been now? A couple years, at least a year, maybe 2, since the county park district had passed a funding levy. They got some new money, where this is the county. And one of the things that they came and talked to me about, and if memory serves, they actually had included in part of their campaign literature, was that they would be able to take over the maintenance of all the bike paths in Licking County. Now, I remember when the gentleman came and talked to me, I remember saying to him, well, I'm okay with that as long as they are maintained to our standards. Because I think, having seen some of the bike paths in some of the other parts of the county, some of them are pretty rough looking. So, but I said, yeah, well, I would be interested in that. Well, then, there was an editorial that was in the Newark Advocate maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and Bob, I don't know if you saw this or not. It talked about, it was asking the question of whether or not Newark was getting a fair share of the county parks money. And there was a part of that editorial where and I don't know who the individual is that operates the county parks department, but he made a comment. The article said something about, well, Heath and Granville, don't get any either. And this guy's comment is that we, haven't asked. Well, I didn't realize that we would have to ask for something we were told they were going to do when they, campaigned for the thing. So apparently we need to ask. So
yeah,
before,
we have not asked.
So before, us looking to spend money on things like that, I think it would be good for us to sit down with County Parks Service and have a conversation about what it is that we want to have done.
Yeah.
Remind them of what they campaigned on, and see what assistance could be coming from that source.
That would be great.
Okay.
How many years have they been collecting that tax now?
A year. I want to say maybe it passed 2 years ago, and they've collected it for a year. Jay, do you recall at all when that was on the ballot?
I was thinking it was 3 years
I
ago,
thought it was
'cause
three,
I think I
too.
was still at my old job.
Really?
They kind of run together, I don't know.
Okay.
We'll find out, because obviously we've given them a pass for 2 or 3 years.
Well, yes. Yeah.
And every property tax bill in Heath
Has that?
has that on it.
Yes, it does.
So, yeah, we've been very
Oh,
patient.
wow.
So, yeah.
I'll also meeting with the, I don't know the director now, there was a Williams maybe at one after Edgington left.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Someone
that that's
new
who it
came in.
is. But yeah, we can look online and find that.
Yeah. Is it lady now?
Sometime after the first of the year or whatever,
Okay.
let's sit
Yeah,
down
that would
and
be
see if we
great,
can
'cause
schedule
we have
something.
a lot of miles we
Yeah,
can do.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Again, we've talked about this before, but with the ash borer, we just cut a couple more trees down in Geller Park. I think that total now was 5 trees that we have lost in Geller Park from ash trees, and they were, beautiful trees too, and it's just an awful thing. If we ever get something that destroys maple trees, we're in big trouble, because but we cut them down, and then we have to cut them down to the ground. We're trying to decide to take out the stumps and plant new trees there, so I don't know. We still have a lot of people who call us and want to donate trees, so we could put replacement trees in
Yeah.
there for them. But we're taking care of those. But yeah, they were very, very pretty trees within the park. And then along with that, we are in the process with Gordon being new. I'm gonna put him in charge. He's gonna kind of take care of Geller Park. Tyler goes outside the park to mow. So Gordon's gonna start looking at all the plaques and the trees. And some of the trees have died, and we're looking at how we're gonna replace those and replace the plaques. And we have to move those trees in other areas.
Some of those little plaques or whatever, they're in bad
Right,
shape.
and it's something that we need to, we always have taken care of them very closely, but the last few years, well, the transition we've had, we haven't watched them as close, but when someone comes and asks where their tree is, or if it's someone who has, a memorial for, you wanna make sure everything is perfect
Yeah.
for them. Cause that's still, it's almost like a tie to their friend or relative, so we try to keep those nice.
Is there a
And that's
map?
really helped the park by.
Is there a map for every?
Yeah, we have, well, when I did it, I wrote down every plaque and where it was on the thing, and we have that, but it's probably not totally up to date. So we have to go back and do some research on some things. So we're gonna do that, start doing that.
Is there a maximum capacity of how many trees you can?
Oh, I don't
have
know,
in
right
that
now,
place?
it's by feel, I just kinda go out there and look.
I'm not likening it to a cemetery plot here, but I mean, how
Yeah.
many trees can you put in a park and still?
Some open area.
We have plans,
Land.
huh?
Said you gotta have the helicopter land.
Yeah, I mean, there could be a time we cut it off, you know, but, another thing that we've had happen in the park, pine trees behind, the ball fields have started to die, and that's another tree that, it's not a white pine, I'm not sure which kind of pine it is, but a lot of those have died. I know at Mount Builders Country Club, they lost a ton of them.
Huh.
And.
Some other kind of
I think,
disease or
yeah,
something?
Yep, it's affected those, and they're dying behind the ballpark now.
So there's
3.
So if there's a plaque on one of the trees that dies, what do
We
do?
may, like, we mean the tree dies.
Yeah.
Or somebody's dedicated the tree and
That's
it
what I'm
dies.
We replace the tree.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I didn't know that was the city's.
We do, you know, I think we're gonna come up with something, we have replaced them in the past. One of the problems over there is deer. They'll start rubbing on it. Throw the bark right off.
So when they donate a tree, do they pay something for the plaque, and what's that? Is there an
They
upfront?
buy the tree,
Yeah,
we go, we pick it up, usually they buy it at Wilson's, they get 10 or 20% off, and we provide the plaque, which is only like $6. And it's worked out well for us over time.
Want 3 adult birch trees? I can handle that.
The first trees that we had donated were Bradford pears. People's name was Armentrout and lived on Clarence Drive, and they wanted to get rid of them. Though we found out now that Bradford pears, they don't sell them anymore, at least that variety, because they were splitting and breaking. But they were the first 2 trees we had, and that's kind of how this thing started.
Do those trees still have their leaves on them right now?
The pears are the last ones to lose their leaves, yeah. And that's all I have in the parks.
Anybody else have anything for Parks Rec and David Shea?
Oh, you hear anything on the Christmas at Davis Shea? Have we had a meeting yet or not?
We went to the Arts Council, they gave a little bit of an update on that. I think they made a little over $1,000 profit.
I think that's what they said.
They said that there was some concern from some of the citizens that they're paying for things now that they always got for free, like the cider and donuts and the carriage rides, but it was.
And by some, I would say probably 3.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe
but,
4.
yeah.
I mean,
But,
it-
you know, I mean, it is a
There weren't,
transition.
from what they said, there weren't many.
Yeah, but they said there was a really good turnout.
Well, I know
You were there.
where Santa was in the basement was a constant flow, but I didn't know how the rest of the.
Yeah, they said it was a very successful event as far as attendance, and there's some people here that were probably there, so.
I'm a volunteer at the
Did
Davis
you
Shea
have
House.
anything to add to that?
We had about 800 people walk through that evening, and everybody absolutely loved the home. And we had a couple families say that they have tea sets they want to donate, and they wanted to know the history. So it was really cool for the community to actually partake in it. Yeah, it was a pretty neat experience.
Anything?
That downstairs area was pretty neat.
What's that?
That downstairs
Yes.
area was pretty neat, the way that
The
they had it
gingerbread
set up,
house.
and they were,
Oh.
yeah, and they were selling fudge down there too, and homemade
Yes, they were.
fudge.
I
Yeah.
had to sit there for 2 hours.
Well, people from the community could decorate their own tree. So the basement was full of tons of Christmas trees that were decorated by a family or a group or an organization. So it was just, so they got to be a part of the Davis Shea House looking beautiful, and that was pretty cool too.
But it was very nice, and I was a little concerned of switching from Father Christmas to Santa Claus. But I'll tell you what, I had people coming for 2 hours.
You made a fantastic Santa Claus. Thank
Pardon
you.
me?
You made a fantastic Santa Claus. Thank you again.
Because I am Santa Claus. Thank you.
And we don't tell him any different.
I am not the Easter.
What was the city's contribution for
I don't know if we know that yet.
Bob, we were supposed to have gotten all of the invoices, for that.
Yeah, it was around maybe around 5,500.
Okay. And the budget that they had shown me, I don't know, maybe a month and a half before the event was like 7. So are we sure that we got all the invoices?
The only one that we don't have is advertising for the advocate, and I think that's $350. I think they told me.
Okay.
And I told them just to give that to me, and I'll pay it. They don't have to pay it first, and then we'll reimburse them. I would just pay that.
Okay.
So that's the only one we're waiting on. So they'll be around 6,000, maybe what they spent, a little bit less than that.
Okay.
And then, but we still have out of that purchase order I wrote for Oktoberfest, we still have between 1,500 and 2,000.
Yeah. That'll just roll back into
Yep.
the general
Yeah, I
fund.
just said, I didn't close the purchase order, I kept it.
Okay, anything else, Parks Rec and Davis Shai? Yes.
Well, the Oktoberfest, it came through the finance committee, and the money was appropriated.
Yeah. The appropriation for that, I don't know exactly how the ordinance read, but in general, it read, there was a $15,000 appropriation for
I thought it was special events.
that event and other special events, I think is how the description of it was. So there was about half of that money used on the Oktoberfest event. So there was about $7,500 left of that appropriation. So it's that appropriation that is used for the Christmas event. Rather than come back and do another one, we already had the money in the original appropriation. So that, and that's the money then that those invoices come out of.
And the Davis Shea House was able to stay under it by a little over $2,000, you said?
Well, like I said, the estimate that I saw was for the Christmas event. The estimate that I saw originally was 7,000. You're saying
So
it's
we're
gonna be a
saying
little
about
less than
1,000,
6,
about 1,000.
so a little more than 1,000.
And
Well
maybe
worth
you're
it what
meaning
they-
overall out of the whole 15,000.
Yeah.
Oh,
That,
yes.
That'll be
Yeah.
money left over. So
Yeah,
that's-
that'd be about more than 1,500, somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000, I think.
That's very.
And that'll just roll back into the general fund at the end of the year. Right, Bob? That's how that's.
We're keeping that purchase order open.
Oh,
It'll be
okay.
open. So that will
Okay.
give us a little bit of seed money.
I
to
got
do
you.
something.
Okay.
I just kept it open.
Okay.
All right, anything else? Going once, going twice, we will adjourn at 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I give you one?
I didn't get one. They did. Did you guys want an agenda for finance?
We're good.
Okay.
Just
An
so
extra?
that's-
Anyway,
There's an extra.
Everybody got one? Call finance order at 6:08. Oh, that clock is off over there.
Yeah.
By 7 minutes.
That one's fast.
No, that one's fast.
Yes.
That one's right.
It's
The atomic clock is fast?
Yes.
Almost about a minute.
Santa's sleigh zoomed by.
Santa.
Just giving you an explanation.
Call him, jolly old Saint Dick. Got a good name for him. That's a new term.
All right, before this gets out of control. We have one
Quick, Jay. Yeah.
last week it came out of, service, request for appropriate $73,000 within the capital improvement to zoning for architects and engineering. Signed off on by Cletus.
And talking to Eddie about this, this will be on the planning document for capital improvements for 2016, but the timing of wanting to begin the engineering work on a couple of different projects was such that we wanted to have the ordinance introduced here in 15.
Okay, our budget.
Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no emergency or anything on that? Yeah.
And the budget should take care of those projects when needed be.
Since it's coming out of the existing capital improvement fund, it's, I mean, that money is already sitting there in the cap. It's like, I think 1.7 million, I think is what's sitting in the capital improvement fund somewhere. So that's where the source of the money would be.
Okay.
Any other comments?
So this would be for first reading tonight, not just first reading.
Okay.
Okay. So that you should all have your ordinance 85-2015.
All right, so we're gonna go over the highlights of this budget, both revenues and expenditures.
Yeah, those highlights that there are. The general fund budget, let's first look at your packet that is general fund budget.
Looks like this.
Yes, that's correct. And
Should be in your box.
So you found.
Everybody got a copy of it?
I do.
Should have been in your mailbox if you, got everything that was in mine.
We got this one, we got this one first.
Here, we got it.
It was like 3 sets, I think.
Should be underneath the
Yeah, I
cover
got that,
sheet.
yeah.
Underneath what?
Underneath this.
I guess just kinda hit any
Yeah.
significant changes.
There are some payroll expense changes, in the various departments, some of them due to, an increase in the pension fund requirements, from the state. The only non-personnel line items that I can think of that have any kind of a significant increase from last year's budget would be in the parks budget. There's a line item for the like special events and things like that. We increased that line item in part with $35,000 for 2016 to set aside for the 4 special events that the city co-hosts with the Arts Council in the management agreement. And that's not to say that each event will be, what would that be, roughly $8,500 per event, ballpark. That's not to say that we would spend that much on each event. We did not spend that much on this year's Oktoberfest event. We just talked about, we did not spend that much in the Christmas event that we co-sponsored. But that line item in the parks budget reflects that change. And then the other change that you'll see, and these would be both on expenses for fire and police. We're looking to go to the Marks radio system in 2016. And we've talked before about how the Marks system has user fees that are per radio user fee for that system. So the line items in which those fees would be paid out of have been increased to reflect those expenses. Other than that, there's nothing that I can think of planned in the general fund budget that is incredibly substantial or unique this year compared to other years.
Paving's gonna be comparable? No.
We don't have, I mean, the money that we have from the license plate fund, I think, in work talking with Bob, I think we would prefer to not use that money this year and save it up to use it next year.
Do you have the balance? It's probably zero right now.
In the license plate tax fund? Yeah, we used about 2 years worth of it for Licking View Drive and for Franklin Avenue and,
Fox Run and.
yeah, Fox Run
Little subdivision
down
up
here.
there.
Yeah, Clinton.
Clinton Lucky and.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I was trying to think, was that about $350,000 we used
Yeah,
for?
somewhere in there. They came out about exactly.
Yeah.
What we brought in, what we spent.
Yeah.
So we're
Um,
starting with zero.
You all, I think, I took a quick glance at Jeff's copy. I think the sticky note on my original got copied onto the copy. This budget on paper is $480,000 upside down, which is not good by any stretch of the imagination. We do, as we do every year, attempt to underestimate revenue into the general fund and overestimate the expenses. For instance, for our 2016 budget, our income tax revenue estimate that we utilized is $5.9 million. Going into, well, at this point in time here in 2015, we've already generated more tax revenue than that. Depending on how the rest of this month looks, Kim Geller was telling me that we're going to end up in the maybe not quite there, but close to 6.1 million in tax revenue. So we try to underestimate what we're going to bring in tax-wise, revenue-wise, and overestimate what we're going to have expense-wise. The percentages, there's an ordinance that, and Tim, I think you asked me this question maybe last week or whatever. There's a separate ordinance that establishes the percentages for what tax revenue goes to the general fund, what tax revenue goes to debt service, what percentage goes to the capital improvement fund. Tim, and I think I replied to you, Tim, in talking with Becky. There's no need for us to make that adjustment. There was 0% going into capital improvement last year. This budget has 0% going into capital improvement this year. And the percentage that goes toward debt service, Becky is comfortable that that amount would be able to cover our debt service payments. So there's no need for us to amend that ordinance to changing those percentages. if anybody has any questions. Yes.
Page 9, what is service?
This, page 9, this would reflect our building maintenance. We have Charlie Kyle is, his pay is split between this fund and Bob's Parks Fund. Charlie also does work for Bob. So this service line, this would be the personnel services area. That would be Charlie's part in that for building maintenance.
Okay, and then page 15.
Communications, this is our dispatch center.
That is our full-time salary for dispatch?
Say that again?
That is the full-time salaries combined for the dispatch? Okay.
Yes.
And
Oh, okay.
in page 21, full-time salaries, that's zoning, is that, I mean, is there additional pay in there for we?
Well,
That's not all.
and I'm
You need
trying
that
to
for an assistant or something?
I'm trying to remember how the 2015 budget was structured. You will recall that in May, John Groff retired, and we had John Groff was a very good employee who was very rarely took any sick time off, and which is fantastic while the employee's working for you. When they aren't, when they retire, then that means that they get that sick time bought out. So last year we had almost half a year of John's salary, as well as the buyout, the payout at his retirement. This reflects Eddie's salary, as well as an assistant. I'm not sure if the title is an assistant, but you know, Eddie was a one-man band in that department in 2015,
Right.
from when John retired to the end of the year. And Eddie did a fantastic job, I think, adapting to his new role as chief of building and zoning, as well as shouldering both workloads, what John had as well as what he was already doing. But as we, I think, had discussed last year, that is not a long-term solution for our building and zoning department. We don't want people who have building and zoning questions with their properties. We don't want people who have questions or need answers, need review of home, building plans. We don't want our developers and businesses looking to come into town. We don't want them to have to be put on hold due to the fact that we have one person doing 2 people's worth of work. So this page 21 with the zoning and the personnel services, that reflects Eddie's salary and the salary of the person who will begin I think January 3rd, January 4th is the beginning of a new pay period for the city, so he'll be starting then.
You've already selected somebody else for the assistant chief.
That's correct.
Because Eddie is now our zoning chief, she'll have an assistant chief, and this covers both salaries.
That's correct. The guy that we have hired is older than me, I'll say, has a lot of experience working as a consultant for various municipalities, as well as exactly the kind of stuff that we do in our department. To be honest with you, I'm looking forward to him coming on, because I think we're going to be able to tap into his experience working with other communities. I think I'm going to learn stuff from him. I think Eddie's going to learn stuff from him, and Jay and I talking. Jay's going to learn some stuff from this guy. I'm really it's not. If you'd asked me a year ago, who would we fill that position with? I never thought somebody like this would have even been available or wanted the job. But I think we're really gonna benefit from having him on board. And I planned on having Eddie, kind of talk to you guys a little bit more detail about it at his next committee meeting.
But Eddie will still be the chief.
Oh,
This
absolutely.
will be our
Yes,
assistant.
yes.
Okay.
Eddie has done a fantastic job, I think, this year.
When
He
you bringing
has.
this guy on? When do you wanna bring him on?
Beginning of the year. We have we have a new pay period that is beginning in, it would be Sunday, January 3rd. So his first day will be the 4th. That's what we're
Which is our next council meeting.
Yes, yes.
Mark,
Yes.
on page 1, under the mayor's things, is the $12,000 for economic development, the donation to Grow Licking County?
That is correct.
Okay.
That's what we had in 15 as well.
Yep. And on page 22, services, we had service up front, but this is services utilities. Let's get that straight.
This is still under the,
Zoning.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. For instance, the line item that might jump out at you, that $80,000 for architects and engineers,
Yes.
that's for the engineering work that's gonna be going through Eddie's office, like the Linville 13 intersection,
Right.
looking to add a turn lane. The engineering work for that needs to begin.
Okay.
Now, this was this line item, let me tell you a little story about this line item. This line item is pretty much the same as what it was last year. I think maybe last year we had 75,000. This year we have 80. When Eddie originally submitted his budget to me, that line item was $225,000. Because the engineering work for the Linville 13 intersection, and it may have been the 79 repaving, was in there. But we have precedent of taking engineering fees for projects such as that out of the capital improvement fund. So what I had Eddie do was back that money out of that line item. And we also worked with Jogues Henderson, who is going to be the engineer on the, or is the engineer, I guess, on the Linville 13 intersection. They've agreed to, rather than bill us all up front, for the anticipated costs, they're splitting it into this year and into next year to help us out a little bit too with the sticker shop. That project, if you'll recall, because I know we've discussed it before, that project involves ODOT money. So when it involves funding sources like that through LCATs, it requires a certain number of levels of engineering and a certain detail to those that is different than if we were to just be paving a street with our own license plate tax money. It increases the engineering needed and thus the cost. So that line item is where projects, if we have Coghlan come to us and want to put in a new car lot, those engineering plans have to be reviewed prior to going to planning commission. That is the fund that we take out of for those costs as well, things like that.
How much is healthcare for this budget?
Those would be split into each of the different areas of under the personnel services area. I don't recall the percentage. Here's what we've had the past 3 years as it relates to healthcare costs for the city. 2013, we had a phenomenal year as it relates to the city's expense for healthcare costs. I think we were somewhere in the $500-some thousand range. We were less than $600,000. Now, let me backtrack a little bit. You all know that the city is self-insured, right? We have basically a stop-loss policy that says that if any one person who is covered has $45,000 worth of healthcare cost expense, the stop-loss carrier then will reimburse the city for those amounts over that. We had, and I want to say maybe city as a whole, it's like maybe at 1.2 million, something like that. Jay, does that sound right to you?
Yeah.
1.2. So, in 2013, we had less than $600,000 in healthcare expenses. You guys may recall that we actually, I think, were in the black at the end of 2013, revenue to expense-wise. Last year, we were much more in line with what the norm has been over the years, which it was somewhere between $800,000 and $900,000 in healthcare cost expense. In 2015, I don't know what happened. I don't know who we ticked off, but we have had a horrible year as it relates to health care expense. We have had some of our insured have some of the freakiest things happen to them that you can imagine, and they were pretty expensive things. So I think this year, I don't know exactly where we're going to end up. I'm fully guessing that we're going to be over $1 million. We may be scraping that ceiling of 1.2 for healthcare expenses here in 2015. For the sake of all of those who we insure, it's very hard to imagine us having another year like that. So, as I recall discussing things with Debbie Whitefield, our HR person who helps to craft all these line items for personnel expenses, I want to say, Jeff, that we were using a figure that was more consistent with last year's performance, that 800, 850 type
Broken up by
range.
department.
Broken up by, yes, that's correct.
Am I just missing it? I can't find streets in here.
Better be.
I may be just blind, but I've been looking.
It would be a 220.
It's in the other funds budget. Go to the
Oh,
other
okay.
page. It's to itself.
Okay.
Right here.
First page of
Is
the
it?
second.
Okay.
The one that's, the one that's labeled other funds.
Yeah.
Now, I want to check something on this with you because John Geller added an engineering expense, and I know that modification has been made in the amended ordinance that you'll have to vote on tonight, but I'm not sure if it made all of your packets.
It did.
It did? Okay, good. John Geller added a little more than $30,000 in his water engineering budget. You all know that in 2016, we plan to begin work on the new water tank that will be on the east end of town in Licking Township. There have been some changes to that plan that on paper are resulting in saving about $200,000, maybe a little bit more. So if those savings come to fruition, John Geller has a plan where we would be able to utilize that savings and install the dual feed to that east end tank now rather than wait. Now, the engineering for that, like I said, is about $31,000 is the estimate. Whether or not we put in the dual feed to the tank next year or the year after or 10 years after that, the engineering plans don't go bad. So the idea is that we will go ahead and engineer the dual feed to the tank, which would basically, where WCLT is in that tank, we would run a line south down 13 on the probably east side of 13. And then as part of the process for acquiring land for the tank, we also obtained easement running to the west to 13 for the purpose of a dual feed. So that's what that engineering would entail. What John is thinking is that if we do have the savings from the tank that we think we'll have compared to what we started, we can start running that line south down 13. And then John Appleman, our water distribution crew, they can, over a span of time here and there, they can just go in with a backhoe and open trench that line, bringing it east from 13 and tying it into the new tank, which having them do the work would save us some money. I want to make sure that change was reflected in your paperwork, and Jay is saying that it is.
Any other amendments?
What's the
Mark?
$105,000 for the streetlights?
It says $105,000 for streetlights. Now, is that?
Where is it that you're looking at there?
On the
Or
ordinance
they
page,
are,
Is that the ordinance?
bill.
to run the lights in the
Run
city?
lights, yeah.
$105,000?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Cause Becky called me and told me that she was gonna have to increase it. I don't see those bills. They come to Becky, and I think that's what that's for. She had
When I
to
just looked
increase
at
it.
that, I thought, of all the lights that are on in the city of Heath, I think we're getting a good buy.
Yeah, they charge a flat rate though, for those lights. They don't meter it, it's like a flat rate per light.
Okay.
So it is,
Okay.
so you're right, we were getting a good deal.
Yeah, okay. I'm okay with Mark, I just didn't.
That's
I
fine.
didn't
You're
see-
looking at the ordinance itself, right?
Yeah,
That's the, okay.
yeah.
I think it's like
I think that's.
so many dollars per hour, and they figure 8 hours, a
Yeah.
24-hour day. Cause I know we've got like 8 up down
Oh,
work,
okay.
and it's,
Just a
wish they
flat
do that
fee.
inside too.
This one's
Yeah.
gonna be.
Yeah, better.
You'll be right there in Kansas.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the shortest day, you know, the lights will be on longer.
That's right. Starting today, we're going back to daylight.
Yes, we
Yay! I hate it when it's dark at 5:30.
Oh, without a
Press
doubt.
Call you
Yeah,
follow.
problem is you gotta go through it by the way of winter.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know. Yeah.
Okay.
So no other changes other than John Geller's.
In the other funds, but yes.
And
The
then
other
your
funds
other
budget.
funds budget and all your budget, we're all printed on two sides, not skipping off the side here and there.
Revenue estimate, then I'm still missing one.
Are you missing the other funds budget?
Look and see if it's in his box waiting.
I did, it's not.
It's not there, I'm telling you.
I'll,
I got
I'll-
those two right there.
I'll copy it.
Another one
too.
I
I'll
don't
copy
have.
it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
You got an
That
extra
was
one?
my design, Doug.
Huh?
It was on purpose.
Oh, they don't,
Yeah, what's your
didn't want me
committee?
to have one?
What's your
What's that?
committee, Doug?
Oh,
Streets.
yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't want me to have one? Oh, okay. Hey, we'll have to remember that, Bob.
We'll make our own budget, Doug. How's that?
There we go. All right.
You can only talk about it, you can't spend any money.
Yeah.
I think Bob does a good job. And I'll tell you, I just, I wanna just say one thing, Bob.
I think they said.
Chris
at
does
least
one heck of a
2/3.
job. I mean, we've got a good guy there, and I called him a couple times, and I got held up in a traffic jam over there when the lights weren't working right on 79, and I'm telling you, he was right on top of it.
Chris
He
is
come
very-
around there and he says, guess what? I'm stuck too, I can't go anywhere. I said,
Chris is very responsive.
Yes, he is.
He has done, I think, an excellent job. Having ascended into the role of the foreman of,
Yep.
of that street department, I think he has done an excellent job. Yes.
I don't know, if you don't want to discuss it now, that's fine, but do we have an idea of what we're gonna have to take out of budget stabilization this year to make us?
Not yet. Becky is working on putting together the cleanup ordinance this week. Just a reminder, 5:30 next Monday
28.
is when we'll have a special council meeting lasting 5 minutes or whatever for the cleanup ordinance. She's working on putting that together right now. And even, you don't really know, Brian, until about like into January or whatever, because you get utility bills that come in and things like that. If there's, we've closed off those line items that are impacted by the cleanup ordinance, but if money is already appropriated, it can still be spent. So you really don't get a good sense, an accurate sense, until January or whatever, which is usually when we have done that ordinance where we bring the general fund up to $2 million. It's usually in January or February that we do that ordinance.
Depending on our shortcoming and then what we need to bring it up to that starting point.
Yes.
If it goes the other way, are we gonna move money out, general fund, if it's over 2 million?
Well,
'Cause it looks like it could be. I mean, the last fund report, it looks like it was appropriate, whatever. I mean, it looked like it could be the other way.
You mean if there was more than $2 million in the general fund at the end of 2015? God, I hope you're right, Tim, because that means that the year will have been in the black.
I mean, that December, that middle of December, that last, thing she had out, it looked like what was encumbered and what was appropriate and everything. It looked like it was, based on that, it would be more.
So you're talking about the fund report through November?
Yeah.
We've got 2 pays
Oh.
in December
Okay.
that are gonna hit that,
Okay.
so I wouldn't be optimistic.
Okay.
I like where you were going with it.
Yeah, I did. I like that.
When he said, I was like, wait a minute, what was he looking at with that
Yeah.
November?
There's a big encumbrance.
Speaking of final bills,
Yeah.
did you get a final pool report to us?
Yeah, we
So-
talked about that.
So everything, all your final utility bills
It was
are
close,
in?
there's probably a few utility bills or small utility bills that came in.
Since the last report? Okay.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we
that's
had
the
a
last
gas bill maybe it
Yeah.
was, or something
I was
that
just
came in late.
curious how much red ink we've got.
We didn't do too bad in the pool, I don't think.
As far as
We were pretty
operating,
close to
we're
meeting
okay.
the operating
Yeah, operating,
expenses.
but it's paying the debt service, we just can't.
Yeah.
I think you did pretty good in healthcare too this year, because since the 1st of August, just for mine has run up to close to $1 million, just for my healthcare. Of course, they haven't paid out that much because Medicare reduces that down some. I haven't figured that out yet, but the total billings for the whole year is over $1 million.
Yeah. Healthcare is, and like I said, we had some really fluky things happen to people. It was, it was ridiculous. But I was actually surprised at when we sat down, it's been 2 or 3 months ago now, with MedBen to look at providers for our loss carrier. Our rates did not. Our rates really didn't increase. I think they all, certainly the one that we went with, saw that this year was a fluke. That the expenses that we had this year in healthcare were a fluke. And, you know, I know that the city has been self-insured for a long time, and I think maybe it was Keith that had adopted that or had recommended that, and I think it was wise. I think if you were to take all of the years and consider what the city would have paid were we not self-insured, and consider what the city has paid in healthcare costs being self-insured, there's no doubt in my mind, even with this bad year in 2015, there's no doubt in my mind that the city has saved a significant amount of money being self-insured. You roll the dice. This year the dice didn't go our way with healthcare costs, but we know that 2 years ago was phenomenal.
And next year might be one that comes back and goes the other way.
Well, it's, you know.
Let's hope.
So this was the extraordinary expenses were employees or their family members or both?
For the most part, non-employee covered.
Family.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, we just adopted this year within our company, because last year it was 17% increase, and this year we're facing a 28% increase. And I know a lot of companies are doing it, we had refrained for many years, but this year we notified our employees that any spouse that is on our insurance, if they're eligible for insurance with their employer, they have to go to that insurance. Because we're kind of getting penalized, because as far as I'm concerned, we offered better insurance because everybody wanted on our plan. I mean, we have a lady that's an RN at a local hospital in Columbus, and ours was better than their insurance.
We have a
So-
Cadillac policy.
So
You're talking about your company.
That's correct. She elected to be on our insurance plan because it was a better insurance that she was offered in the hospital she worked in.
Yes.
So, you know, we're just changing that this year. I don't know if the city is doing that or it's just something you consider, but. I just
Well,
wanted to throw it out.
not to get too specific in a public meeting about negotiating items for our next contracts with the city. I will mention that it has been openly discussed with the insurance committee that is comprised mostly of their union, the different bargaining units' union representatives. That concept has been openly discussed with them.
And I think that's pretty the norm
It is
anymore,
anymore,
Brian,
yes.
because I know that the city of Newark and Richmond County both do that. If your
Yeah.
spouse has coverage available, they must take it.
What's more than that, in the private sector, I don't know how much this is done in the public sector, but I think in the private sector, there are even companies that will say, not only if your spouse is eligible for coverage through your spouse's employer, must your spouse take that employer's coverage. If your spouse's birthday is prior to yours in the calendar year, your children also have to go on your spouse's
I
plan.
think that's the way it is everywhere. I really do.
No, we didn't. Well, like I said, we didn't do that. We actually allowed the children to stay in the policy.
You're seeing that in the private sectors more and more where, and again, I don't know about public sector, but in the private sector, if your spouse is employed and eligible for coverage, your spouse has to take it. Whichever one has the first birthday in the calendar, that's where dependents can go.
And some of them want to kick and scream, but the bottom line is that who do they think is going to pay it?
Well, that's the
I mean,
thing.
they're going to pay it. If we can't afford it, they're going to end up having to pay
And
their share. So-
I would say that the people who make up our insurance committee, the employees that make up our insurance committee, they get that. They understand that. They understand that in the end, the costs for healthcare ultimately impact our ability to pay them and do things and whatever. They get that.
Starting this coming year, 16, the government that I'm insured with, they changed ours for the older people, you know, instead of having family insurance now, you can, if you've got more than one dependent, you have to carry it, but if you just have a spouse, like I am, I can get employee plus one, and it's reduced.
Is that through VA or is that through Medicare or what is that
No,
through?
that's through, civil service.
Oh,
United
okay.
States Civil Service.
Oh,
United Air
okay.
Force Civil Service.
Okay.
Which I don't know, I wouldn't take it this year because usually when the transition year, they make a lot of mistakes. So I thought
You didn't want $1 million worth of bills plopped in your mailbox?
No. Since I had a bad year already, I didn't know what they might come up with, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Any idea how many people will be impacted if that labor negotiation is implemented?
I'm sorry, what was
How
the
many
question?
people might be impacted?
I have no idea.
You know, have all the gas at this point?
I have no idea. I don't know, there probably aren't many employees that we have that aren't married, but I have no idea of those, how many of their spouses are employed with somebody who offers coverage.
Other questions on this thing at this point? Comments?
Did I hear right, the percentage for capital improvements?
Still zero, yes. Yep. Still zero.
So when we pass this, we've got to adopt this as amended then, right?
That would be correct, that's an amended version of that ordinance.
John Geller's engineering is really the only.
That was the only
No,
one.
yeah. Well, the ordinance that was introduced 2 weeks ago
Did not have it.
was, and the other cuts that we made. Like Eddie's 200 and whatever, I don't think they did.
I believe that that was all in. Right?
Hold on a second.
The only
I'll know.
change.
I'll be able to tell.
I know, I'm looking at the final number. Maybe Eddie is out of there. I thought I changed
This also reflects those other changes. Total general expense, 7539093.73. Total general fund budget, 7539093.73. So those other changes are incorporated into this number as well.
You talk about that red ink on the bottom. That's what we're talking about here?
The
general fund budget?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. Because there were also, I mean, we trimmed a little out of fire, we trimmed a little out of police, we trimmed a little out of, parks and so, yeah, so those changes are reflected in that
14th
number.
was when I changed it on the 15th, that runs.
Yes.
I wouldn't want your job.
Huh?
I wouldn't want your job. I think you did what you could do.
It's not pretty. It's not pretty. And, you know, I think we'll talk about this starting on January 4th. We need to seriously talk about long-term solutions because this issue is not going to get better. And we are not going to, the state is not going to replenish those funding sources that they've taken away from us over the past few years. We are not going to be able to job growth our way out of this situation. And we'll talk about that in great detail starting in 2016.
What did we get as for what we're going from?
Jay, do you know what we got this year, or have I don't know. Never thought to.
Little bit compared to typical.
Well, now all the cuts have now been implemented, which to my recollection, the total amount of reduction was a little more than 50% of what we had originally got.
Okay.
Chief John Mason shared with me the fact this evening that Licking County received a little over, county government received a little more than $2 million in casino tax revenue. Tim, the county thanks you, and Bob, the county thanks you for your contributions.
I didn't try to give it to him. It just happened.
But you know, the county had faced some cuts, but I think you know, $2 million in casino tax has got to look good. I know that sales tax revenue is up for Licking County compared to what it has been. I think if you were to corner the county commissioners, they'd probably tell you we're doing all right revenue-wise. I think if you look at the fact that the state now has what, $2 billion extra in their pocket now, they'd have to say they're doing all right now. But we're not going to get anything. We're not going to get anything sent back to us. We're not going to have any of those cuts made whole. As a matter of fact, House Bill 5 is going to begin to take effect. I think, okay, it's either on business tax returns filed in 17 or in business tax returns filed in 18, but not far in the future, we're going to see our businesses begin to carry forward losses that they incur, which will reduce the amount of business profit tax that we receive. It will have to.
Have you put a number, or tried to put a number to what will challenge, that will affect our bottom line in dollars and cents, HB5 and the estate tax when that went away?
Well, the estate tax would be easier. I mean, what I would do with the estate tax, Brian, is take a look at the last probably 3 or 4 years where we were getting, you know, 100% of it, and that would just average it and say that's basically what we've lost.
It's been a couple hundred.
House Bill 5 is going to be harder because, I mean, I know, or I can find out, how much we receive in business profit tax. Theoretically, all of that is in jeopardy. But in actuality, there are going to be some businesses that are going to make a profit and they're not going to be able to carry forward a loss. So we'll get some. But that is a hard number to, and it will change from year to year. You know, we were talking, you know, when Butch had his thing, Heath Alexander was here. He and Jay and I were having a conversation in the copy room, and you know, the impact of that is going to be difficult to anticipate on a year after year basis. So imagine this: we all know, you know, when the recession, you know, 07, 08, 09. Our business profit tax in the city went down. Companies weren't making money in the city. But since we had no loss carry forward, as those businesses rebounded, so did their profit tax revenue to us. In the future, as those businesses rebound, our tax revenue will not rebound in that manner because they're going to be able to carry those losses forward and not pay the profit tax for the years that they make a profit. So when the next recession happens, it will be even longer for the city's revenue to recover. Nobody thinks about that stuff though in Columbus. They don't care about us.
Anything Alright, we'll adjourn at 6:59 then.
Take that 5-10 minute break and then we'll have a.
That clock isn't right.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Do you usually get a copy?
Of course I have.
7 o'clock,
I'll
7
have
o'clock by
a
that
copy.
clock, we'll have our meeting. Our
Yep,
doctor's
no problem.
meeting.
I'm confused. Things need reset or what?
I don't know what the deal